Inception.
Hello, everybody. I'm just going to set up something here so you can see my beautiful face. And we'll put that down here. Cool. So David Hemphill is on here with me today. We're going to pair on some of this stuff for fun.
Hello.
How are you, David?
I'm excellent.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it. I wish it said how many people were in the chat, but it does not. Unbelievable. Oh, 31 watching. That's fine. All right, so did you see the last stream by any chance?
I got to catch a couple pieces of it.
So basically what we did is built out an endpoint for updating the webhook settings for a product, which is just the webhook URL and the HMAC key. So we got all the endpoint working, bunch of different tests and stuff like that. But if we head over to the old UI here, the UI, this webhook thing just doesn't do anything at all. So what I want to do is just add that page and add a little form there and make it like a little Ajax update thing with Vue and Axios and make it work. How do you feel about that?
That sounds good.
Cool. So I think the first thing that we want to do is add an endpoint for that. So if we head down into our auth middleware here, we can add a GET request to. So with these like sub-resource things, I think we could either do like webhook settings /edit, since it's technically like the edit form for the webhook settings. Or we could have it just be this URL, but still point to like the edit controller action, since that's really what it's doing. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably have to do like a redirect, if you just had like that URL right there and you wanted to go to /edit.
Yeah, I just mean like, what should the link point to, do you think? Like if we're on the webhooks page, should it be like webhook settings /edit? Like this is products, editing the product details. And
Yeah,
I think it should be /edit.
Yeah, well,
something like that.
That's what I was saying. Like I think you'd have to do like a route get webhook settings and then redirect to the edit.
Yeah, but that's only if we're actually going to have like a link that points to this. But I think we can just link directly to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Product webhook settings controller. So I add an old edit function here that has the product ID. And let's just return a view. So that's all this is really going to do. So let's look at how things are structured in the old resources directory. So we got views, products, edit, index, new. So I think we could do like products. So we could either do like products dot webhook settings dot edit, or product, or name it after the controller and just have like a product webhook settings top level thing. Kind of like, well, I guess I did that for product checkouts. So let's go with this, I think, for now. Yeah,
I think that
seem reasonable.
Good. I've been doing stuff like that instead of just
like deeply
having a bunch of nested folders. It's been liking having it all in one level.
Yeah, it's a little easier to get to stuff. I kind of hate when you have like folders and folders and folders. I hate like if I have to make my sidebar wider than about this. If I have like a folder, and now I can't even read the file name, that's no good. Okay. So we're going to want to find the product and pass that through and everything. But for now, let's just put together a basic template. So why don't we copy this edit view, because I think that's basically what it's going to be. And save this out here. Product, webhook settings, edit. Yeah, I was thinking about the node modules folder. Someone in chat mentioned sidebar definitely won't contain that. So I was originally thinking like, are we gonna have to do something fancy to get this like underline thing going on? But we're actually just gonna duplicate this nav for now. We could extract that to a partial later maybe, but for now, let's just copy all the classes. Check out this out. Doesn't this look beardy?
It does. I was appreciating the length.
And then we can style this other one the other way. And let's see down here. So this form, what have we got? Card, border rounded, box shadow. So we'll keep it as a form. We're not going to need any of this stuff though, so let's just delete everything in here and put like a to do. And we're going to want to make this link actually work, but let's just see if we're even getting anything here. So if we go to Webhook, settings, edit, undefined variable product. So that's probably coming from this thing. So let's just go pass that through anyways, since we're going to want to do that. Okay, product.
Love a good tab.
Yeah, this is pretty sweet. Pretty clever. Cool. So we got this view going on. Stick a form in here. Well, let's actually do those links first before we get ahead of ourselves. So here we've got like a named route. So let's give this a name too. Name, product, webhook, settings.edit. And then we can copy this, stick that here. And we can actually clean this up, I think. I noticed the other day that you can...
If you just throw it, the variable, it will kind of autofill it. Yeah,
you can do like this magic, which is pretty cool.
Oh, without even the ID.
Yeah, as long as it has... there's this thing called... let's see... URL routable contract. So if you look at that, illuminate contracts, URL routable, get route key and get route key name. So if you pass through just a whole object and it implements this interface, it checks that first. So if we go to this one and you look at, what was it called? Get route key.
Mm-hmm.
So get route key name. You know, you can see it just uses the primary key name. So if you pass through the whole model, then you'll be good to go. Yeah, Andre is asking if there's any TDD. There's a lot of TDD in the last one, but since this one is like only really front end stuff, then we're probably not really going to do any. Here you might want to like write some tests to verify that certain people can see it and certain people can't. Like we could go ahead and do that maybe. But for stuff that just shows like a view and doesn't actually have any rules, like isn't actually having any side effects, I find there's not tons of really useful things to make assertions about. Like sometimes it does more harm than good, or at least I just don't feel like they're giving me a lot. So in
Doesn't
cases
bring a lot of value.
Yeah, like I don't know. If I was testing like a JSON response or something, I definitely would, because it's nice and structured and easy to assert against. But when you're just getting back HTML and there's not really a lot of things to check, like I don't want to write XPath selectors that go and find out, oh yeah, this form field should be here, because like I might change that form field's name or location, or there's just so many things I could break that I would rather just, you know, build out the view while I'm in the browser, since it's basically like doing UI design. So I can't do UI design in a test, you know? So I'm going to see what I'm doing anyways. So it doesn't really make a huge difference for me, but yeah. Anyways, where are we at here? So we got our webhook settings page. We can go back to our edit page. Let's update that link for the product edit view. So we'll just copy this line, paste that in, but fix the class. Yeah. And we can change this too. I got my new keyboard yesterday. Did I tell you that?
Oh, the non-Gatorade one?
Yeah. So I was about to drink a Gatorade while I did this stream, and I thought, I better not push my luck.
Did you do it on the stream last time?
No, I think just before. It was stupid.
Oh.
Really embarrassing. Okay, so I think what we want to do is put in like a view component here, because this whole form is going to be like a view deal. So I'm trying to think like what tag I want to be the like parent most outer tag in the component. Because the thing that always kind of gets me with like the view stuff is I start wondering like how much aesthetic stuff I want to bake into it in terms of like, you know, the fact that, okay, I'm going to put it in a card this time. Do I want that to be baked into the component, or do I want to be a prop or something? Or do I want to have that in the wrapper and then have like the actual component not have that sort of like surrounding styles, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to say. I think we can put it
bake it in.
Yeah.
Because the class gets passed down and mixed in with any inner classes on that component, like automatically.
Oh,
so
really?
Like,
so if you have like my component and I say like class foo, that's automatically going to get merged with the class list of the top level tag in the component.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure
kind of cool.
Works.
Well, let's try that out. So let's make a new view component. So head over to assets, JS components, and what do we want to call it? Like update webhook settings form?
Yeah, I kind of do it as like uniform across the whole board. So like you've got update product webhook, you know, yeah. So
yeah. Oh yeah, update. Good call. Yeah, keep the terminology consistent. I dig it. Okay, let's throw a script in here. Export some default stuff. And go ahead and find out. Okay, so we don't want that one. Close all this extraneous stuff. Let's just copy this in there and get it just rendering exactly what we already had. So we don't need this role or this action. And this should work, right? Like you don't actually have to do anything for view to work.
Yeah, you don't.
Okay, so let's do update products, webhook, settings, form, the obligatory closing tag, and head over to app.js here and pull that in.
Strangely, only if it's like a PHP is outputting it. If you are compiling it with, you know, like a single page app, you don't have to have it for some reason.
Oh, really? You don't have to have the closing tag if it doesn't have like a slot, for example?
Yeah.
That's cool. That must be because it just does like so much more processing on it. Like
Loader does it, yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's a long name. Okay. I got stuff in here that I don't know that I'm even using. I was working on this crazy tooltip stuff with portals and I don't know. So I think we're going to have to restart this because we updated the main app.js file. All right. So, yeah. You can tell it's working with Vue because it takes a second for the stupid thing to show up.
Do you have an outer app component kind of wrapping them all up?
Yeah, the way it looks is if you look at this template, layouts app, which extends layouts master. So I got just like this top level app thing. that just yields all the content of whatever. I have this thing right at the end for my popovers, which I'm not using anymore, but basically like an outlet for any like modal windows, stuff like that, that needs to go at the end of the body to avoid like overflow issues and z-index problems and stuff.
Sure.
And then any scripts that I need to load before my vendor scripts, my main app thing, and then any extra scripts that I want to load after that. That's basically kind of it. Nothing too fancy, really. Bunch of stupid crap to get the footer to stay at the bottom. Thank God for Flexbox.
Yeah.
Okay, so
If I had to support anything other than Flexbox, I probably would just quit and go be a lawnmower.
man, this is funny. I just noticed this. This is something I started doing with my utilities because, like, as if you just change the name, obviously it doesn't get applied. I started pretending that I could comment them out.
And it started working.
Yeah, like it works obviously because it changes the class name, but it's just like my convention for like disabling a class while I'm working on the UI or whatever if I want to see what it looks like without it. So I guess
I really like that actually.
I guess I didn't end up using that, so we can probably get rid of that. But yeah, so we got this now. So let's like maybe just scaffold at the form a little bit. So I'm gonna look at like the product edit blade view because I can't remember what my what stuff looks like to style these form controls. So if this is a card, then we need a card section to get some padding, which this whole thing has proved to be like not a useful abstraction anymore. It'd be easier to just have my spacing helpers. But let's just get like a basic form group in there and remove a bunch of the PHP bits of it and see what we get. The interesting thing is going to be the validation errors. I don't have like a great view approach for that.
You know, the one they do in Laravel Spark is really nice. They have like a Spark form object.
Yeah.
It's based on, well, I don't know if it's based on this, but there's another similar package, I think. I can find it. But it basically brings back all the Laravel validation in a way that you can kind of, like, sanely check for it in view.
Nice. Yeah, I find it like doesn't end up being too bad to do manually, but it does get like repetitive. We'll do it manually this time just because I think it'll be faster, but could be something to like refactor down the road. So this is going to be like the webhook URL, and this is going to be like your secret key. So we can say like https example.com/hooks. Don't want this one autofocus, and it's not required. Okay, webhook URL, secret key. Should this have a placeholder? No. I hate this label for thing. Need to just wrap my inputs in the label. Guess I don't need these. This is my other commenting style. Stick a 1 on the end.
These are good tips and tricks, though. Just like deleting them and like, where is it?
Yeah, I try not to. If I don't want to commit to it like being gone, I usually don't delete it. Okay, so let's have an update button here, and we'll have this be like a button primary. And type button, of course. That type submit default thing has bitten me in so many weird places before.
Really?
Yeah, like where you're trying to use JavaScript for something and you click the button and you listen for the click and do your stuff, but don't realize that the form is submitting also. I think that's too spaced apart.
I've had people like not front end developers, but like designers that kind of know a little front end development. They'll add the name attribute on the submit button.
Oh, so that it gets passed through as like with a value.
Yeah, and if you're like trying to check for that, man. It causes all sorts of problems.
Yeah, like it's
Like
kind
the
of.
submit event just goes away because it's a property of the form.
Oh, really?
So like you can't like do form.submit, and it's hard to tell why until you're like, oh, it's the name attributes on the button.
Man, that's stupid. This is a sort of an unrelated tip, but one thing I noticed is a really annoying with Vue out of the box is focusing elements. So if you normally use like autofocus, it doesn't work because the component's not in the browser right away. So I have this V focus thing, but if I'm not mistaken, oh yeah, no, this one's actually pretty easy. I have some other situations where I had to use this crazy helper that I made that forces Vue to re-render the whole like DOM so that it triggers a refresh so that the line of code that you put in the callback makes sure it only runs after the browser's been recalculated. It's like helpful if so actually I can show you an example of where that's helpful. So when I go to this products page and I have this button where when you click this button, it turns into this field and focuses it. Normally, I can't get that to focus without this view next layout thing because I press the button, and part of that event handler, I want to focus this element, but this element has display none set or whatever, so the browser refuses to focus it. So I have to wait until it's actually displaying and then focus it, and just next tick isn't enough for that. It's kind of interesting. If I'm not mistaken, anyways. We can verify this. Yeah, you can see I do this view next layout, then focus the input. Kind of a cool trick. This is sort of stupid. Like, I actually picked this up from the Vue.js source. Evan has to do this in places for this similar sort of reason. It turns out if you get the offset height of the document body and assign it to a variable, that's just like a hack that forces the browser to synchronously recalculate the DOM so that you know that this code is running with the new DOM.
Has to redraw.
I don't think it forces it all to redraw, but it forces it to redraw like whatever's been queued up, you know?
Yeah, it clears out the queue. I see.
Yeah. Kind of neat trick. So anyways, back to our webhook settings here. So, couple things. We probably want this to pre-populate with the webhook settings that are already there. I would think that sounds like a somewhat useful thing to do. So let's see if this one already has one. So this should be product 2 here. So we got a webhook URL, but we got no secret key. So let's just put a secret key here. Pretty secret looking. And so the way that I normally do this is by having props for like the two things. But I've seen other people do it where they have a prop for just the ID of the product or whatever, and then fetch the product info with Ajax.
Yeah, I've done it that way. But you will actually pass it into the input itself.
In this case, I think I would because it's just two things, and the form is kind of specific to it. But yeah, I don't know. Let's give it a shot. See where we get. So here's another annoying thing. What do you do when you have like a long list of things and you want to break it up in the middle of a tag? The best I've found is like having this on its own line and like tabbing this stuff in.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty standard practice now in JavaScript stuff.
Okay.
Like React world. That's real big on that.
Got it. So if we do the webhook URL and the secret key. Now this is an annoying thing because like both of these can be null. So I guess null gets converted to an empty string though, right? If you do like toString on null. Like if I do artisan tinker, I just cast null. Yeah, so that will work. I was originally thinking we might have to do it like as a real prop and then JSON encode it so that it comes through as like a valid null. But I think passing in an empty string will be okay. Let's pass that in. Let's also pass in like the product ID. Pass it through as an integer though. Just so we have it because we're going to need it for the endpoint to update it. Someone's asking to see the new product button component template. I can show that quickly. So it's kind of wild. This took me a long time to get right. But basically there's a container div and then there's two chunks. There's the add product button, which you can see is this piece. And then underneath that is the form, which is this piece. So all it does is really toggle between the two things. But the trick to getting the animation to work nicely was to put like a fixed width on the parent that's calculated here. So you can see like my width is here. So if the form is showing, then I have it set to 25 rem wide. If just the button is showing, then it's 8 rem. And then I have a transition on the width. So whenever the width changes, it does that animation, which is kind of cool. It's kind of annoying because width is not the best thing to animate with CSS because it doesn't get optimized the same way as like an actual transform would. But it makes it really hard to get this like button width shrinking properly and stuff otherwise. But that was kind of a fun thing to work on. Okay, let's take a look at this form quickly. So we got our update webhook settings form. Has no props. Okay, so let's make sure we accept those. So I'll just copy this list. Okay. A lot of people do like the fancy props with like the default values and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't personally. Do you do that a
I don't
lot?
either. I just kind of like design the cases to always have like empty values or rather than validating.
Yeah. So that should be enough to get those loading, right? If we wait a little while. Yeah, cool. So that one's wrong. Secret key is wrong. So that should be secret key.
It's interesting. I didn't know you could use the underscored key as the prop too inside
Oh
your
yeah.
JS.
I never really thought about that. Yeah, cool. Yeah, because I guess like the standard is to use a camel case, right, and then pass it in with dash case.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Let's do
So-
that anyways. That probably looks nicer. It's neat to know that they both work though. So now if we change this to yeah, cool. The one thing is like when I pass this back in, I want to pass it through with underscores, but we can just do like a manual mapping, I guess. Okay, so one thing that I see people do with Vue a lot that I did for a while, then realized it was not the right way to do it, was to have like an @click on this button to do like the update. But then if you hit enter in the form, it doesn't work. So it makes a lot more sense to do an @submit on the form, and then just do a prevent default. Do you have a naming convention? If you have like a form with one button, what do you call the method that you call to like actually go and do the work? Do you use the same name for everything, or do you name it like based on the form?
Kind of always do like a handle something. Handle for events. Any kind of event is. I think I got that from some of my React stuff.
Like handle
kind
submit.
of like, yeah, handle submit or handle on click.
Got it. Yeah,
I think
that does
it's
sound very Reacty.
there's like a convention around that.
That's cool. I dig conventions. Anything that makes me make less choices is better. So we don't really even need like the method or any of that stuff, right? Like it's kind of pointless.
Yeah.
We could make this like no, we couldn't. I was gonna say you can make this like gracefully degrade if you didn't have JavaScript enabled, but you couldn't because this component wouldn't even render.
Yeah. It's both awesome and kind of like sad that we've thrown away years of progressive enhancement.
All in pursuit of loading animations. So whatever. Okay, so let's have like we want to basically fire this off. Do I have Axios as like a window level thing? Yeah.
GeoAxios.
Dude, you don't even want to know. So there's a well, first of all, I think this just works, but so I had two pieces of the app. One doing my regular Ajax requests, and then another where I had to hit this there's this API that I was using for geolocation, freegeoip.net. And if you hit their JSON endpoint, and you pass that header that says like it's an Ajax request, their service fails.
Is this like primitive, like old school?
I don't know. So basically, I have to like go out of my way to make sure that I don't configure that header or whatever. Now I'm sort of wondering what tweaks I did here and if we're going to run into other issues. Like, is this not going to pass our CSRF token? Because normally I think that would be configured for us, and I don't see that it is. We can check that quickly. I think I have like a 5.4 demo app. I always keep a couple of these hanging around.
Just to see what the defaults were.
Yeah, this stuff. All right, let's so I think we can just set this to the window.laravel.csrf token. Oh, what am I doing? So what was it? Window.laravel? Now, hopefully I didn't rename that. I have a tendency to mess things up. So if we look at our master layout, so we want window.app, not window.laravel.
Seeing the live stream going down, maybe. Oh, it's back.
Oh, weird. Like it was jumping to the
holding screen for a second. Oh yeah. People are saying stream's going down.
Okay. All right. Well,
but it's back now.
It is what it is. Technology. I keep looking out of the corner of my eye. I have it open on my laptop over here, and it's kind of flickering once in a while. That's too bad. Okay. Okay, so let's check out what that endpoint was for. So it's a patch request to here. So Axios.patch, that sounds like it would be a real thing. Yeah?
Yeah, real optimistic.
And this would be this.product ID. And then we want to pass through an object. Gotta not confuse my PHP and my JavaScript. So
Do you ever find yourself wanting to just go full JavaScript? Abandon everything that you hold true?
Yeah, JavaScript is a nice language, actually. It gets a bad rap because like dealing with the DOM sucks. But I think as a language, it's actually pretty Z. Okay, so with Axios, is it .then or do you have the callback that goes in here?
I think you can do both, but I always opt for the then. That seems to be the most reliable, most promise-like.
Let's log out that response then and just see what we get. I guess we want some vModel stuff. Oh man, so this is funky. Okay, so we actually need to make this. Okay, have you ever run into this where you have something that's passed in as a prop that you want to do a vModel binding to, but because props are immutable, you can't bind to a prop. You have to bind to data properties, which means you have to have your data properties based on your prop. You know what I'm saying? So you have to do things like this, like prop webhook URL and like prop secret key, which sucks because then in here I have to call this prop webhook URL. and prop secret key, and then
You can't do like a two-way binding there. Okay.
not with the prop because they're immutable. So this has to be a function that returns an object, and I have to say webhook URL is equal to this dot prop webhook URL. And same with secret key, prop secret key. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this will work-ish. Yeah, so thankfully, this runs after, like, the props are passed in. The thing is, I don't want to push the updated value back up to the parent, like someone's saying in
like the sync modifier.
Yeah, like I just want to seed it with an initial value and then have its own copy to mutate,
Okay. I've done that, I think, with some like computer properties, kind of accepting the prop and then only basing the inputs value on a computed property.
Yeah. So if we make this webhook URL and I guess I'll just put this all in one gross long line, whatever. Love it. And v model secret key. Let's just see if like this appears to be updating. Okay, so yeah. So let's just see what happens in the old console here. Nothing. You know why? Because we made this a button type button, and we actually do want it to be a submit button now. Okay, watch the console again. Okay. Seems to update the secret key. If we say API / banana sandwich, it's a classic. Banana sandwich. Let's update the secret key.
All your test values are rated PG for the stream.
Yeah, exactly. Normally there would be more vulgarity. Yeah, so this seems to be working since we tested that endpoint. That's good. So now I think if we like forget this, we're gonna get a different. Oh, is that cheating?
Feels like, I mean, well, it's default. You're relying on the browser as much, so I like that.
Let's see if it works in Firefox. Pretty sure it does.
Kind of like your baseline.
Well,
that's your new IE.
My real baseline is Safari, but I'm gonna test it in Firefox first. Yeah, okay. And now, like, I mean, the data integrity is there because the validation is there on the server. So I'm not that worried about
What was that David Hasselhoff looking thing?
Where?
On your new tab screen on Safari.
This one?
Yeah.
70's big. It's like I haven't been here for a long time, but it's like a blog for powerlifting and stuff.
Mm.
And they like really worship all these 70s powerlifters and strongmen, just like big burly badasses.
Yeah. It's like a lot of military folks, like the frogmen, wearing like these really short shorts, shooting machine guns. And
this is amazing. This is new. Safari didn't used to support HTML5 required attributes. It supported all the other HTML5 form validation, but not required, which in my opinion is like the most critical one by far.
Like the first one you would implement is probably required, I would think.
Yeah. Is there an HTML5 validation? End. They say.
How's that Canadian internet?
All right. I started the stream again and quit OBS and started it back up. I don't know. Canadian internet here is pretty good. I would not be blaming my internet speed. I'll even do a live speed test while streaming to both Screen Hero and OBS at the same time. Maybe it's not that good.
That could be an issue. I'm running at 260 MP.
I'm not going to do this. That's a bad idea. Okay. Anyways, so the next thing that I would want to do, I think, is we have like no good visual feedback right now when you press this button. So like we have, whatever, example.com/sure. And that comes back and works and whatever. But it'd be cool if it like disabled and did like a, loading state.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not mistaken, I do have like a loading button. So if I just add this, it should magically work. So let's just add it statically so we can see what it looks like. Refresh 100 times. Yeah, so you get like this nice thing.
That's nice. It's built in, so you're not like toggling an icon.
Yeah, the cool thing about it is the way it works. I stole this from Bulma. They have this is the kind of trick. So a lot of the time you got like a loading button, and the button changes size because like the content of it changes.
Mm-hmm.
So what they do is when you add a loading button class, they make the text color invisible. So the text is still there. It's just completely see-through. And that text is what's defining the size of the button. And then they use an absolutely positioned pseudo element to create that little loading spinner. So the size of the button is still purely defined by the text that was in there before, which is kind of sweet.
So what's the background? How's it getting the actual like the loading?
The loading thing is literally just a pseudo element that has borders on two sides and a transparent border on two other sides set to be like a circle with a 2-pixel border.
Oh,
So it's just a spinning semicircle with this little spin animation. Just nothing to it.
That's pretty awesome.
Pure CSS.
Props to Bulma.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty slick. So we'd want it to like look disabled. So something like this. Now this is going to go so fast, which is always the most annoying thing when you're working locally. Like it doesn't take long enough for the data to go through that it doesn't even look like it's worth submitting. So the way that I normally do this is like when I do like handle submit, I'll do like this dot. I usually do something like working equals true. Whoa. And then I have like this working false thing. And then here I do like this dot working equals false. And I guess you need to also have like a dot catch, right? Or can you do 2 callbacks and then?
Yep. Well, you can do 2 thens.
It's just annoying. Like I wish they had finally support in the actual ES6 promises, so I could just say this should always happen. But then we can tie that class here. So here's a cool view tip. Some people don't know that you can mix static classes with computed classes. So you can have a class property and a colon class property. And then this one can be like, button loading should be showing if we're working. And it should be disabled if we're working.
Yeah, Vue gives you a lot of options for class manipulation.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. So I think that should give us a pretty decent start. One thing I'm going to do actually is what someone was saying, we can throttle the connection speed. Where do you network? Let's set it to regular 2G.
I would set it super slow.
And then just see what happens. Like, look how fast that is on a 2G network. Unbelievable. Is there not like a standard place to find that? You have to go to performance and then this? So GPRS, as slow as we can make this go. Still pretty reasonable. Feels like the rest of the internet. If this was missing.
There's no hiccups, no extra hops for network requests. It's yeah.
Yeah, it's because Valet is mint. Let's see what the actual response time is of that. 18 milliseconds, 14, 16, 12. Can we get it under 10? 11? 11? I don't know if we're going to get it under 10. That's still pretty quick for a local development environment.
Yeah, I think so.
So the only thing that's really missing from this little basic form is, I guess, like form validation stuff. But really, I feel like I'm actually pretty happy with HTML5 validation for this particular feature. It'd be nice to make it more robust ultimately, but this backend is kind of not like super publicly visible. So anyone using it, like, is a small number of actual customers. Like, it's not like people buying stuff get to see this, only the sellers. So they can probably all be using like a more modern browser anyways.
Yeah, and they're reasonably smart. So it's, I mean, if your initial version doesn't have like a bunch of helpful tips, like
Yeah.
they can't figure out what a webhook URL is.
Yeah.
Why did they sign up?
Yeah, that's the one thing I want to do actually. But I need to talk to Steve, the guy helping me with design, because I want to add like like a what's this helper or something, and figure out like where should we go to show people like documentation or information about what the hell a secret key even means, and explaining like the HMAC stuff. So like a whole other element that's got to get added here, which I haven't even really come up with like a good approach for yet, is testing webhooks. So you might create a product and you want to like send a test webhook to a certain endpoint. I have to make a decision about like what the hell does that even mean? Like, do you get a modal where you enter like a new URL and like you press a button and it sends a sample payload and then like logs the response or something? Or should it not even be a modal? Should it be like some other sort of way to demonstrate it? I don't really know.
Like another panel underneath.
Yeah, so like
or card.
The next thing I actually want to add to this particular page is the webhook settings, and then also like a table of the webhook log, so you can see like what webhooks were fired to your server and log like the response that came back each time, and if one fails, like you can retry it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's probably something we can look at for the next stream, maybe. GitHub webhook tests in a neat and simple way.
Love how we're like building the exact same stuff.
I know every app is the same. The other thing that's funny is like my testing course, this is like the same app. There's like a checkout page. There's like some back-end editing pages. There's like publishing concept. Like it's all so related.
Yeah, I was joking in the Slack channel that every app is basically cron. It reduces down to cron jobs and webhooks.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm trying to think like what the next thing I even want to do for this app is. Like, probably won't do any more today because we've been going like almost an hour, even though I had some stupid stream issues, which makes me sad. And I wish I knew what the real source of that was.
Blame it on Trump.
Yeah, could blame it on Trump. I'm going to get rid of this console log. One thing I'm curious about, I want to make sure these things get set as null. If I do this, then I look at the database. Is that actually null or is it an empty string? Null.
Sweet. Like hover off of it. Is it lighten? Yeah, it's actual null.
Yeah, not like text null. Yeah, that's always the worst. Okay, cool. Well, I think what I want to do next in this app is make this publish button work. That was like kind of the motivation for this webhooks thing. So right now, the way I publish things is by going into the database and going here and saying no.
The absolute perfect way.
But if I make this not published and then go to like KiteTail checkouts, you get just like a 404, right? Because there is no checkout for that page. So I need to make it so that once all the data is actually there, like we have complete enough data to go ahead and publish, that this button actually works. And then also figure out like what should this button do if the data isn't there. I don't know. Like I was originally thinking it might be disabled or something, and you'd hover over it and there would be like a tooltip that kind of said like you need to do whatever. Because I don't think there's like enough things to need to do that I need to have like a whole page of errors or something. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a tricky thing, like how to explain that you can't publish it yet and what you need to do. You know?
Yeah, I'm thinking through the UI.
Yeah.
There.
It's hard
Gonna have
to.
like
I don't
one
have a
of
lot of
three.
like good references to comparable apps to like look for different ideas that other people have had for solving it. But that's the one way that I came up with.
Yeah, it's kind of a long form, or yeah, long timeline wizard, non-linear.
Yeah, the non-linear part is the worst part of it. Like you can edit any of it at any time. The other idea that someone mentioned is like having publish take you to like a sort of like a review confirmation screen that maybe like shows the checkout form or something and then can list errors if there's errors.
Yeah, you could show maybe, I don't know, like an icon that's red or gray, and then green when it's good to go, and then this button is enabled. It's kind of like a overall indicator of.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I wonder how you could do that without it looking obnoxious, because I always hate like when you have a form that shows it's invalid before you've even started. Like it feels like a similar sort of UI problem.
Yeah, or if you tab out accidentally, it's like instantly on your
Yeah, it's
butt.
like, this isn't an email. What are you thinking? Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm gonna figure that out for next time maybe, and that'll be something we look at then. So that's probably be it for today. Hopefully that was fun. Hopefully you picked up a couple interesting tricks. Hopefully the stream wasn't down for too long for too many people. I'll have to probably clone this video down and stitch it together and then upload it back up so it doesn't show up in two stupid videos. But yeah,
Sad.
thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks to David for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. See ya, people.